Sometimes a glance is all it takes, not at the outside world but at how you perceive it. Because it's not reality itself that shapes your life, but how your soul interprets it. Your window to the world isn't made of glass, nor does it have a frame. It is built from your wounds, your hopes, your archetypes, and your shadows. And today, by choosing one of 5 symbolic windows, we will see together how you truly perceive life. Not according to logic, but according to the deep truth you carry within, even if you are not yet able to name it. Carl Jung said that what is outside is only the shadow of what is inside, that every act of perception is also an act of projection. When we look at the world, we are actually looking at our own soul reflected in the mirror of reality. The window you choose today is not random. It is a reflection of your internal configuration, of what you seek, what you try to hide, what you reject, or what calls to you from the deepest part of your being. Each of the 5 windows you will see today is a symbol, not just an image. Each one carries a specific psychological quality that resonates with your way of being, with your history, with your way of interpreting suffering, love, loss, and meaning. Your choices are not superficial. They are the language of the subconscious communicating through symbols, dreams, images, and whatever moves or repels you without words. This will not be just any test, it is not a game or a diversion. It will be an encounter with yourself, with that part of you that has been forgotten, repressed, or never fully named. The window you choose will reveal not only how you see the world, but also what limits you, what gives you hope, or what prevents you from seeing the whole truth. Imagine you are alone in a room, and in front of you are 5 different windows. Each one leads to a different view, a different space, both physical and mental. By choosing one, you intuitively open the door to your inner self. Do not be guided by logic. Do not ask which window is better. Trust your impulse. Do not judge, simply feel, because it is precisely in that first inner impulse where the clue is hidden. What has moved you the most is your image of the world. Are you ready to look through the window of your soul? Are you ready to discover how you really see the world? Not as it should be, but as your psyche perceives it in its depths. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and look at the 5 windows. Which one catches your eye? Which one unsettles you? Which one attracts you? Which one feels familiar? Even if you have never seen it before, this choice comes not from your head, but from within. In a moment you will discover what your choice says about you, what your soul sees through that window, and how it interprets the world through it. Window 1. The storm over the ocean. If you have chosen this window, your soul speaks louder than your mind. You do not seek harmony, but truth, even if it hurts you, shakes you, and leaves you in darkness. The image of a storm over a rough ocean does not scare you. It attracts you. There is something in you that has always felt more connected to chaos than to order. Perhaps it is because chaos reminds you of your inner self. Perhaps it is because you have learned to read more truth in the lightning than in the sun's rays. The choice of this window reveals that your perception of the world is deeply emotional, intense, even archetypal. You do not see things superficially. You feel their darkness, their weight, their subterranean pulse. Just as the ocean is not just water but a symbol of the unconscious, for you, the world is not just a stage for phenomena. It is a living organism, full of inexpressible desires, fears, and the struggle between light and shadow. The storm in your soul is not just a reaction to external events. It is a profound internal dynamic that Carl Jung called the confrontation with a shadow. The shadow is that part of our psyche that we have rejected, repressed, or not dared to name. And you, by choosing this window, show that you do not flee from this confrontation. Perhaps you live in it every day. Perhaps your whole life is a journey through turbulent waters, where every flash of lightning illuminates what normally remains hidden. Your wounds, your anger, your longing for something greater, for transcendence. Jung said that the unconscious directs our lives, and we call it fate. In your case, fate may take the form of emotional storms that seem unstoppable, but they are not random. They are the cry of your soul to find something authentic, something true. The storm is a ritual of purification. It is a sacred chaos that tears down illusions and allows you to reach the core. Your way of seeing the world may be perceived as difficult by others. You might be a person who sees too much, feels too much, perceives what others prefer not to see. But this is a gift, not a curse. even though it is often carried like a cross. Your soul resembles the ocean, unpredictable, deep, bottomless. You may have a tendency towards emotional overload, melancholy, or drama. But these traits are not flaws. They are the language your psyche uses to try to find meaning in a world that often seems to have none. This window also indicates the presence of the Great Mother archetype, not in her comforting form, but in her primitive and destructive form, which does not protect but tests you. Your relationship with your mother or with feminine energy, in general, may have been full of tension, dependence, or emotional storms. This may have influenced your current way of seeing the world as an unpredictable place, full of dangers but also of mystery. There is a hunger for transcendence in you that finds no relief in simple answers. You are not satisfied with words of comfort. You need an experience that shakes you to the core, that opens you to something bigger than yourself. In the storm over the ocean, you feel the echo of the sacred. Perhaps you even feel that in the heart of chaos hides a divinity that cannot be expressed in words. What is terrifying to others is real to you. You may often feel alienated, that your emotional intensity is not reflected in the outside world, that others do not understand your reactions, your sensitivity, your tendency to introspection. But this does not mean you are too emotional. It means you see further. Your window does not show a pretty view. It shows the truth, raw, turbulent, but sincere. In the depths of your soul, you may also feel the desire to purify yourself. Perhaps you have experienced trauma, loss, or an identity crisis, and now your vision of the world is filtered through that experience. But it is precisely for this reason that you have the capacity for empathy, to recognize suffering in the eyes of others. These are not things that are learned. They are things that come through the storm. What for others is chaos, for you is a map. What for others is noise, for you is a voice. Your window does not reassure you. It awakens you. Window 2. The Green Valley at Dawn. If you have chosen this window, perhaps your soul longs for the light. Not a superficial, illusory, or sugar-coated light, but the kind of light that breaks through the darkness after a long night. A green valley at dawn is not just a beautiful sight. It is a symbol of hope, of the promise of rebirth, of a delicate strength that does not fight but endures. Your way of seeing the world is rooted in the desire for peace, in the need for inner harmony, in the faith that despite everything, life has meaning and is worth seeking. The choice of this scene indicates a psyche that has learned to see the light even in the shadow, not because it does not know darkness, but precisely because it has known it and has decided not to give its heart completely over to it. Carl Jung said that, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. By choosing this valley, you show that this work is already taking place within you. Perhaps slowly, gently, without drama but steadily. Your vision of the world may be perceived as positive or optimistic, but beneath the surface lies a deeper truth. Your hope is not naive but experienced. It is a decision. Perhaps you have had to reclaim it many times. Perhaps there was a time when the valley was empty and the sky without sun, but something in you did not allow you to give up. Your window indicates that you see beauty in what is alive, in what grows, in what is reborn after death. The valley symbolizes the soul ready to grow. It is not chaos or rebellion, but care, tenderness, a cycle. Perhaps you are a person who sees potential where others see ruins, who hears singing in the silence, who knows how to wait. Archetypally, this is a choice related to the inner garden, a place where the psyche can heal, breathe, and be reborn. This may mean you have a natural inclination towards the role of a caregiver, not necessarily in a literal sense, but emotionally and spiritually. You may be someone who brings light to others, even if you sometimes do not feel it yourself. The dawn in your window is a symbol of a new beginning. Perhaps you are a person who still believes that change is possible, that people can grow, that you yourself can overcome your limitations. Perhaps life has taught you that after the darkest night, the day always comes, even if you have to wait a long time. This attitude gives you strength, but it can also be a defense mechanism because sometimes what we perceive as hope is an escape from pain. Your window may indicate a tendency to avoid conflict, to seek consensus at all costs. You may be afraid of confrontation because you prefer to maintain balance rather than risk a rupture. But Jung warned that without contact with the shadow, light becomes an illusion. Therefore, perhaps your valley is not only a place of rest but also an invitation to finally descend deeper into your roots, into what you have not yet lived. The green of the valley is the color of life, but also the color of the heart. It indicates a personality guided by feelings, intuition, and trust in internal processes. You may have deep empathy, compassion, and an openness to the beauty of the world. You might be a spiritual person not in a religious sense, but in an existential one, believing not in dogmas but in the presence of something greater that manifests in simple things. In the song of a bird, in the smell of grass, in the breath of a loved one. At the same time, your window reveals your need for security. The valley surrounded by hills suggests that you feel more comfortable in stable and known environments, where you can develop without feeling threatened. You may be afraid of chaos, not out of weakness, but out of sensitivity. Your soul needs a space where it does not have to defend itself, and it is precisely for this reason that you are able to create such spaces for others. You are like that valley for them. Calm, present, welcoming. This worldview also has an element of idealism. Perhaps you unconsciously idealize reality, see more goodness than actually exists, or project your inner light onto others, believing they have it too. This is beautiful, but it can also lead to disappointment. Jung said that what we see in others is often a reflection of our own soul. Perhaps your path is to learn to distinguish where your hope ends and where reality begins. By choosing this window, you reveal your longing for a world that does not wound but heals, for a reality that is not a battlefield but a garden for the soul. And although life rarely fulfills this vision, your ability to see its traces wherever you look is a precious gift. It does not mean fleeing. It means choosing to see the light, even when others only see shadows. Window 3. The futuristic metropolis at night. If this is the window that has caught your attention, it is very likely that your soul seeks meaning in structure and security and control. The image of a futuristic metropolis at night, pulsating with neon lights, does not overwhelm you but fascinates you. For many people, this image would be a symbol of separation, coldness, and dehumanization, but for you it represents an ordered cosmos, the predictable rhythm of civilization, in which it is possible to find oneself if one understands its rules. This window reveals a type of worldview that is profoundly mental, analytical, and often distanced from emotions. This does not mean you do not feel, but that you have learned to feel through thinking. Carl Jung described this as the dominance of the thinking function over the feeling function. You may have learned in childhood or adolescence that emotions are chaotic, dangerous, or unreliable, and that the only way to survive is to build a mental, social, and logical structure. The futuristic metropolis you see through the window is not accidental. It is the archetype of the world created by the mind, full of inventions, technology, geometry, and patterns. This means your perception of reality is filtered through rationality. You may have a tendency to analyze, classify, and order phenomena and emotions into categories that give you a sense of understanding. But this can also be a defensive strategy, a way to avoid direct contact with what is wild, unpredictable, and deeply human. Your soul may perceive the world as a system, not as a living organism, but as a network of connections, principles, rules, and interactions. You may often find yourself in the role of an observer. You watch from a distance, analyze, create models. You may have a talent for strategic intelligence, for seeing things in a broader context, for predicting the consequences of actions. This is a gift, but it can also lead to a feeling of isolation, because even though the city is full of life, you may feel alone in the midst of it. Symbolically, the neon lights of the night are like artificial stars. They try to illuminate the darkness, but their light does not come from the sky. They indicate a need to control the light, to create clarity where shadow naturally reigns. Jung would say that it is a way of separating oneself from nature, both external and internal. You may be afraid of chaos, of the unpredictable, of primary instincts, and that is why you lean towards what is built, technological, predictable. This does not mean you are cold or superficial. On the contrary, beneath this external structure may hide a great sensitivity that has had to learn not to be destroyed by an excess of stimuli. Your city is a beautiful, shiny, functional armor, but all armor separates not only from dangers but also from contact. You may find it difficult to form intimate relationships, to open up to feelings you cannot predict or understand. At the same time, the choice of this window may suggest that you are a person very well adapted to life in the modern world. Technology, change, information are your natural environment. You are flexible, adaptable, and a quick learner. You find it easy to move between different social environments, understand cultural mechanisms, and predict trends. But this flexibility can also hide a lack of deep roots. Do you have your place? Do you have your why? This window also resonates with the archetype of the hermit in its modern version. A person who does not live in the forest but among skyscrapers, who does not flee the world but remains at its center, yet maintaining an inner distance. You may often feel like a stranger among people, not because you are antisocial, but because your mind operates on different frequencies. You may have a tendency towards intellectual introversion, to live more in the world of ideas than in the world of sensations. The city at night is also a space where anything is possible, but nothing is certain. It is a symbol of incessant movement, consumption, novelty. Is there room for truth in all this? For silence? For feelings that are not filtered through a screen? Your soul may long for authenticity but does not know how to find it outside the structure it has built. It is also possible that you identify with the archetype of the alchemist, someone who works in the laboratory of their own mind, transforming information into knowledge and knowledge into wisdom. Your window is not a window to nature. It is a window to human constructions. But it is precisely there, between the metal and the glass, where you can find the path to the soul, if you allow yourself to descend from the level of the head to the level of the heart. Window 4. The desert with a lone tree. If this is the window that has caught your attention, you probably carry a truth within you that many avoid. That life can be empty, unpredictable, painful, and lonely. By choosing the desert with a lone tree under a bloody sky, your soul does not seek to escape suffering but to confront it. You are not interested in decorations, false lights, or illusions of hope. You want to know how things really are, even if reality is harsh, silent, and offers no easy answers. In depth psychology, the desert is not just an image of the outer landscape but a symbol of the inner state. Isolation from sources, existential droughts, spiritual crisis. Carl Jung wrote that the true awakening often begins by leaving the garden and entering the desert, because only in a place where there is nothing can one hear the voice of one's own soul. Your window shows that you are in a stage of life, or have been for a long time, where reality has been stripped of appearances, and you look at the world without illusions. The lone tree that has survived in the desert is like your psyche, pained, alive, rejected but not broken. That tree is you. Someone who has not disappeared despite being exposed for years to spiritual droughts, emotional storms, rejection, and a lack of meaning. The fact that you see it and choose it means you feel a connection to it, perhaps precisely because you are the one still standing even though no one may have noticed your existence. The reddish sky does not promise joy. It is not the dawn, but something more unsettling, perhaps apocalyptic. Jung spoke of the archetype of the end that must precede a new birth. Perhaps your psyche senses that something in your external or internal world is coming to an end, that you can no longer pretend, that you cannot continue living in narratives that are not yours, that you must symbolically die to be able to truly live. This window also points to a deep feeling of loneliness, but not the superficial loneliness that can be filled with company. It is about existential loneliness, the kind that is felt even in the middle of a crowd, even in relationships. Perhaps you carry within you the feeling of being different, misunderstood, disconnected from the world. Perhaps for years you have tried to adapt to systems, people, roles, until you understood that what you were missing was not acceptance but meaning. Your soul does not fear nothingness. It matures in it. Because only in that void, in that stillness, in that austerity, can something authentic emerge. Jung wrote that the psychic desert often becomes a place of revelation, but not revelation as ecstasy, but revelation as painful recognition, the recognition of who you are when everything else has been taken away. Your window may mean that you already know who you are, or that you are right there, on the edge between disintegration and birth. This worldview can be difficult for those around you. They may see you as cynical, cold, too serious. But it is not cynicism. It is courage. The courage to not sugarcoat reality, to recognize that love does not always win, that good does not always triumph, that meaning is not always revealed, and despite everything to keep living. Your tree does not grow for anyone. It has not survived to receive applause. It is simply still there, and that is your power. At the same time, this window can be a warning because staying too long in the desert, identifying too much with loneliness, can make you forget what life is like. You might start to believe that you are destined only for suffering, but that is not true. The desert is a stage, not a destination. Your tree is not dead. It is waiting for rain. It is waiting for you. But not the you that will return to old patterns, but the authentic you born in that fire. The choice of this window demonstrates great strength of spirit because only someone who has survived the end can truly understand the beginning. Your soul does not seek entertainment, it does not seek comfort. It seeks the truth, even if it is as bitter as sand in your eyes. But that truth can become a foundation, not of a religion or a theory, but of an inner peace that needs no answers, because it becomes the answer itself. Window 5. The Cosmic Whirlpool. If this vision has captured your gaze and your heart, you are likely a person who seeks not only explanations but also transcendence. By choosing the image of a cosmic whirlpool rising above cracked earth, you reveal that your worldview goes far beyond matter, social roles, or everyday dramas. You see life as something larger, mysterious, infinite, and at the same time brutally real. And it is precisely this duality that attracts you like a magnet. Spirituality rooted in pain, the sky opening over the torn earth. The cracked earth you see below is a symbol of everything that has been broken in you and around you. Relationships that have crumbled, ideals that have not stood the test of time, systems that have failed, parts of your identity that have fallen apart. It can also signify inherited traumas from the past, cracks in the soul that have never healed. Jung called this the shadow, that part of the psyche we do not want to see, but which has a powerful effect. The fact that you choose this image shows that you are not afraid to look at the cracks, that you do not run away from what is difficult. But there is something more in you. That something more is the sky, but not just any sky. It is a rotating abyss of galaxies, a spiral movement of consciousness, as if the universe wants to tell you something. It is the symbol of the self-archetype, according to Jung, the center of the personality that connects the conscious with the unconscious, the human with the divine. Your choice says that deep down you believe that everything, even suffering, chaos, and failure, has meaning, although it may not be apparent at first glance. You are a pilgrim on the border between two worlds. On one hand, you stand on an earth that is cracking beneath your feet, and on the other, you look up at a whirlpool that calls you to a deeper understanding. This window speaks of a person who is experiencing a spiritual awakening, but not in the form of quiet enlightenment, but rather as an intense immersion in a whirlwind of unanswered questions, symbols, synchronicities, and strange coincidences. Perhaps lately you have noticed that the world speaks to you not through words, but through signs. Dreams, repeating numbers, encounters that cannot be explained by logic. Jung would call this a numinous experience, an encounter with something that transcends rationality but which you nevertheless feel is real. At the same time, the choice of this vision may indicate an internal conflict. The spirit longs for cosmic unity, but the psyche is still bleeding from the wounds of this world. You want to trust that there is a plan, that there is meaning, but you are still struggling with the reality of suffering, unprocessed emotions, and broken relationships. The galactic vortex may be your hope, but also your escape. That is why it is important not to fly too high so as not to lose contact with the earth, even if it is cracked. Your healing will not come only from the sky. It must reach down to the roots. This window is also an image of psychic initiation. You are someone who has already passed through the darkness and does not want to remain on the surface of things. Are you willing to die to your old self to be reborn into something true, deep, and integrated? But this transformation is not romantic. It is painful. The spiral movement of the galaxies is not just aesthetic. It is the archetypal movement of death and rebirth. Your choice indicates that you are ready to enter this movement, even if you do not know where it will lead you. It is an act of courage, but also of humility. What does all this say about your worldview? That you are not satisfied with appearances, that you need the truth. Not just the rational truth, but the deep, symbolic, spiritual truth. You are a person who sees that the world is more complex than it seems, who knows that every crisis carries within it the seed of transformation, who feels that somewhere, behind the veil of chaos, pain, and misunderstanding, there exists an order, perhaps invisible but real. This vision may make it difficult for you to find your place in everyday life. You may feel like a stranger in a world of superficial conversations, quick answers, and materialistic priorities. But this does not mean you are alone. Your vision is a gift, even if it is sometimes a curse, because by seeing more, you feel more and suffer more. But you can also do more. Your consciousness is like a galaxy, inconceivable but beautiful. And it is precisely she that has drawn you to this window. Conclusion. You have seen 5 windows. Each one is a different path, a different world, a different truth about yourself. There is no single answer or a single way of seeing things that is better or worse. Jung taught us that the psyche is like a kaleidoscope. Its image changes at every moment, and what we see depends on where we place the glass. Your choices have shown how your consciousness dances between light and shadow, order and chaos, the longing for closeness and the desire for freedom. Each of these windows is like an invitation to know yourself fully, with courage and honesty. Because only when you accept your storms, your valleys, your cities, your deserts, and your cosmos, can you begin to live truly, not according to the patterns of others, but according to your own unique truth. This is individuation, the path that Jung pointed out, a continuous approach to oneself, without fear of what you might discover. So today, do not look for answers on the outside. Immerse yourself in what your choice has brought you. Let the image you have chosen speak to you in silence and tranquility. Observe what awakens in you, what moves, what needs your attention. Do not be quick to judge. Because all truth is a process, and that process is sacred. Thank you for allowing yourself this journey. Keep your heart open and your mind alert. The world you see is a reflection of the world you carry within. And when you learn to look at yourself with love, you will see that all windows lead to the same house. The house of your true self.